Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, what are we? The Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy is our primary thing, but I have on the screen our new logo. What we really are is Anahat Education Group. My name is Matthew Brownstein. I'm the CEO, fancy three little letters. I own this company, Anahat Education Group, and run it. We also have the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy and the International Association of Interpersonal Hypnotherapists. I'll just show you a few slides for announcements in a moment about what we've been up to. Yet the general theme tonight for the class is opening the heart and interpersonal hypnotherapy, with the primary focus on opening the heart. Let's jump right in, then I'll take a moment to just make a couple of announcements. Actually, let's just do that. Next slide, just to let everybody know, those of you who follow me with Anahat Meditation or onlinemonastery.com, I have recently recommitted to at least Tuesday night support groups in June. So if you're an Anahat meditation student, we have hundreds of them now. Then we're getting very close to certifying certain people who have been through and been logging their hours and whatnot. So feel free to join us. You can go to onlinemonastery.com. Find the link, and it's free. Just join us in Zoom, and then that's a support group. So I'll be mostly answering questions from our students, but also I'm sure teaching about different topics and just offering support. Another announcement, our next state licensed hypnotherapy training begins June 29th, 2022. You can learn more at instituteofhypnotherapy.com. We also have a new revised logo compared to the one on the upper right on the screen for the school itself. And then we are also the International NLP Society. I've been a master NLP trainer for, 20 years or something. So our next interpersonal NLP training begins June 18th. So it's coming up. And actually the orientation is this Wednesday night. You can be there, but either way, you just need to enroll sometime before the 18th to be able to start attending the class. But better off starting sooner than later to start some of the videos that lead up to the actual class. Anyway, that's available at instituteofhypnotherapy.com as well. Okay, I think that's all. All right, and then if you're enjoying this whole YouTube thing, go ahead and subscribe to us and like this, like everybody in YouTube says, because that's what you're supposed to say. All right, so tonight's topic, opening the heart. It's so important because if you're into hypnotherapy, you understand, if you work with clients, you understand that not everybody is open. So we talk about interpersonal hypnotherapy, and helping people to truly transform their lives. But when a client comes into your office and you say something like, okay, look at me sleep, right? Let's say we're putting them into hypnosis. And you do that properly, not what I just did there. But you really work to get them in and they're just not going in. Or you're doing the intake and you're saying, okay, well, how do you feel? Well, I don't know. Well, tell me about your emotions. Well, I think. It's like, I didn't ask you to think, I asked you to feel, right? And hypnosis involves access to the subconscious mind. And hypnotherapy involves access to your emotions, right? The subconscious mind is your emotional mind. So quite often you hear about people who come into your office and they say things like, I'm depressed, like these anxious feelings, I can't stop my mind, I don't have a good memory, and I don't really have good creativity, and I just don't tend to feel my feelings. After 6 months of being in private practice, which I started when I was about 24 years old, 1997, I realized right away that the training that I have as a meditator, as a Buddhist, as a yogi, I don't define myself as anything, but I have a lot of background in philosophy, religion, and spiritual practice. And I dedicate my life to spiritual practice, to really achieving something from meditation and yoga and whatnot. And one of the main things you achieve is a liberated heart where you're just not blocked and closed anymore. So I knew a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight before I started seeing clients, before I had any training in Chinese medicine and hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming and breath work. I went around the world literally like studying this type of stuff. I dedicated my whole life to it. And then I sit down with clients and they can't necessarily access the things that I had expected them to. So I started giving them what I called the talk. And the talk essentially was an opening the heart teaching to help them to be better doing hypnotherapy to get the results they want, right? And to know how to deal with their own emotions outside of the office, because nobody ever taught them. Nobody ever teaches us collectively about some really valuable things. If we're going through grade school, nobody teaches us deep meditation. Nobody teaches us how to truly make money. And nobody teaches us what to do with our emotions. Like the most important life categories, they just tend to neglect all through grade school, junior high, high school. So it's like, what are you left with later on in your life? Usually default mechanisms which actually don't serve you. The idea of opening the heart relates to setting yourself free, to be free of suffering, to be free of your own internal pain. We live filled with, there's so many words for it, negative emotion, right? How many people think about yourself or others? And if you're clear, then this talk is for you, about you helping others. And by the way, feel free to ask any questions during this or use the comment box. Go ahead and chat with me if you like. I'm more than happy to interact with you guys, even though these tend to be more lecture-based classes these days. So we're not okay inside, right? There's sadness. Either you have it or you know people who do, right? Who are just sad. This is a scary time on the planet right now. The economy and war and diseases and shootings, right? It's painful, right? Like, how many of you are not feeling sad because of what you see in the news? Okay, so there's sadness. Then it's scary, right? So now you've got fear going on in this human experience. We also tend to get angry about this kind of stuff, right? Somebody hurts you, you get angry. Life is frustrating. I mean, not inherently, but we respond that we're frustrated. We get annoyed. We get agitated. We get anxious. We get depressed. Can anybody relate, right? We feel lonely. We feel... And then you get the whole list of negative beliefs that we all live with, right? Inside of us, we're carrying beliefs like, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm not good enough. Try to relate to what I'm saying, not just theoretically, right? Have you ever thought, I'm not good enough? Or I'm not intelligent enough? Or I'm not attractive enough, right? I'm not enough. Or I'm not lovable. Or I'm unloved. Or I'm alone. There's a big list of those beliefs. And if you're a hypnotherapist who really works with clients, you're going to hear those. You will definitely discover a consistent list of negative beliefs, negative emotions. So what are these things and why are we plagued by them? So first of all, beliefs and emotions, nothing wrong with the belief. But whether it's a positive belief or a negative belief, it can still be totally wrong. So one thing about this is a lot of our beliefs are just wrong. We're just living with faulty assumptions, assume limitations, these ideas of who we are that limit us, but really keep us like deeply out of harmony with who we truly, truly are. So there's this list of negative beliefs, which have all sorts of problems that come with them, and this list of negative emotions. Now, having a belief is okay generally, but a lot of these beliefs are deep subconscious, and it's just an inner child who concluded a lot of faulty things about him or herself. The negative emotions are fine. A child gets hurt, a child feels sad, and then they move on. However, something happens in our development that gives us a habit of what to do with our emotions. We generally do one major thing with our emotions, which is the worst thing you can probably ever do, aside from, hurting other people physically or however we hurt others. The most harmful thing you can do to yourself, let's put it that way, but therefore what hurts others as well, is suppression. The biggest problem in my book, The Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment, it basically says the mechanism of suppression must be reversed and that all psychosomatic illness is essentially the result of suppression, right? Psychosomatic illness means your mind has caused the problem. But it's not just negative thinking. Negative thinking causes negative emotions, right? And which comes first? Our model says thought is actually causal. It's your beliefs that cause your emotions, and beliefs are thoughts. If I believe I'm alone, I might feel the emotion of lonely. If I believe I'm powerless, I might generate the emotion of anger, right? The belief comes before the emotion. However, we don't know what to do with these emotions. We don't understand why they arise or who we truly are. We just know we don't feel okay inside. And again, I hope some of you who are listening can empathize with others. I mean, I feel really okay inside. So to me, it's about compassion and offering these teachings out of compassion. But some of you might really empathize with others, meaning yourself, who's living with this pain inside the heart, right? Does it feel open and clear in here? So what's happening in here? Well, it's not your lungs and your physical heart, although your physical heart absolutely has a mental emotional component, right? And you can literally die of heartbreak. And we just heard about that recently with the tragic events that are occurring, or at least I heard about that. So I heard some study, I can't say I know the science behind this, but I believe it was a valid scientific study that said when people have a lot of trauma and they close down, their heart literally starts calcifying. More calcium deposits develop in the heart. So this physical thing is more than just physical. But when we have this type of talk, it's better to acknowledge emotion as an energy in motion, right? Even if you look at what's happening with neurotransmitters at the synapses between cells, these are electrical impulses jumping between cells, right? When you look at your brain activity, it's electrical activity. You're not just a biochemical being. It's really helpful to see ourselves as energy beings. What do we mean by energy? Well, we don't have to prove it with science. It's not what a talk like this is about, right? Although, there's acupuncture and Reiki and mesmerism with animal magnetism. A lot of us acknowledge, okay, there's some life force energy, easy, like we could accept that. But you don't have to accept anything scientifically or philosophically because we live with our bodies, right? You live with this human system. And nobody actually gave us the owner's manual. This is what you do with a human being when they feel sad. But they did teach you that. When you felt sad as a kid, your parents told you what to do. And they basically said, suppress. They said, don't cry. They say, suck it up, right? You should be seen and not heard. So we did learn how to do it, but we didn't get the divine owner's manual. We got the neurotic family manual that told us you're essentially not okay as you are, right? You're not important. You're not valuable. Your opinions don't matter. We don't want to hear your opinions, right? How many kids have had a desire to do or be something and it wasn't acceptable to the parent? What happens to the child ego state, to the child as that part of the psyche is developing, when we have a parental or societal voice, which becomes inside of us, that pushes the child away? What we end up with is an inner child, which actually doesn't have to be there. The inner child is essentially the part of you the part of your psyche that didn't grow up. Because in good hypnotherapy, at least interpersonal hypnotherapy, we bring that part into consciousness, we heal that part, and then through forgiveness, a whole 50-step process that we teach in the school, the inner child is free and they're brought into a state of love and joy. And then essentially we say, would you like to grow up now? And they almost always say yes. We visualize them growing up, they dissolve, we integrate them back into the whole of the psyche, and what's left is a much more whole person. The idea of personal wholeness is when every one of those little inner children, or we could start to call them blockages, are transformed. Because while you can look at this on the psyche level, you've got an inner child, which is essentially a part of your psyche. It's a part of your heart in the sense that it's also an emotional being. It's related to your memory, so it's deeply stored in your subconscious mind. That being is made out of something. It's not necessarily made out of protein, right, or carbohydrates or fats. So what is your inner child made out of? You could say it's made out of mind stuff, right? And what is mind stuff? I don't know, but you experience it all the time. So the point is, this is a very subjective type of talk. It's not trying to formulate a scientific or philosophical theory. It's saying you're in here and stuff comes up in here and you don't like what comes up inside of you. And then that inner parent part of your being, but it's even deeper than that, suppresses and pushes away the emotions that you don't want to feel. Why is it deeper than just a parent-child conflict? If we take it a step further beyond just the idea of energy, that you have energy that moves through your system, right? Emotion, energy, and motion. We have to ask, who is the you who's observing all of that phenomena, right? If you notice sadness, who noticed sadness? Sadness didn't notice sadness, right? If you notice anger comes up in you, you noticed that. That you, we could essentially call consciousness, right? Because you're conscious, like, oh, it came up and I was aware of it. We don't have to be all that spiritual about that word consciousness. We can just say there's consciousness, like really hard to deny, and the consciousness doesn't necessarily like what it's observing, so it pushes it away. Why am I saying it's your consciousness that pushes away the inner child or your emotions, the stuff you don't want to feel, the act of suppression? Why am I saying that consciousness is does the act of suppression? Because you have willpower, right? Whether you like it or not, there's this reality. It sure seems like you have free will, right? And somewhere there's something called will. It's your own consciousness that emanates willpower, right? I am conscious and I will to move to the left. I'm conscious and I will to move to the right. I'm conscious and I will to push my emotions down. So if you consider that there's a you who suppresses your emotions, then we have a relationship between you and your feelings, right? So now you're living in this human system and you get feelings you don't like. When they come up and you suppress them, you make them far worse. When an emotion, let's say anger, is trying to move through you, and you say, I don't want to feel that, and you push it back down, the energy of the anger doesn't just go away. It can't be created or destroyed. It just goes into a holding pattern, right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when you suppress anger, you put more of it in your heart. It's like there's this tendency, there's this pattern to get angry. That's okay, because that's a human emotion, right? This biological organism has emotion to it. Right? Evolution gave us emotions. They must be valuable. So anger is there essentially so that if something is hurting you, you can attack it and destroy it, right? Like you're going through the woods and some bear is, being a bit too aggressive with you, and you realize, all right, I've got to fight, right? Fight or flight. I could be afraid or I could destroy that which is attacking me. Sometimes we have to destroy that which is attacking us. Okay, so basic evolution. So there's this emotion in there that comes up that says attack. And what do you do with it? Because it's not socially acceptable and you can't attack your parents who are maybe the ones causing you to be angry, right? When you're 5 years old, if dad's making you angry, but the more angry you get, the more angry he gets, and then you're the one who gets hurt, what do you do with your anger? You push it down. But the energy's already riled up, all those biochemicals of emotion, or however you want to see it, they're there. And when you stop it, they don't get to move through this system. Have you ever been like really afraid? And then it's like, oh my God, like something really bad is going to happen. And you get really panicky. And then somebody says, oh, no, that's actually not what happened at all. And like imagine if here's a story that is told in the New Thought movement with Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, they call him the father of the New Thought movement. He was big on psychosomatic illness and how the mind causes the problem. He said, imagine if a man was waiting for his son to come back from the war on a train. So the man's waiting at the train station for his son. And the son isn't on the first train. And someone says, I'm sorry to tell you, but your son has died. Then the man has all sorts of physical, mental, emotional phenomena in an instant, right? His heart starts doing whatever it does, and he feels crushed. And then somebody else says, no, your son's not dead. He's on the next train. And then, you're like, oh, my shoe said, okay. And then he's on the next train. Now, what happened with all those biochemicals, with all that emotion, all that energy? It depends on what you do with it. But if you've ever really been afraid, but you realize, oh, it's okay, your system just disperses that energy and it gets transformed back into its purity. The system resets itself. It goes back to homeostasis, right? You can talk about it kind of physical, biological, but really, again, talk about it energetically. When that energy is not suppressed, but it's allowed to run its course, it dissolves itself. But we have to understand, if we realize how destructive suppression is, then we have to understand how destructive acting out on the emotion can be, and the incredible opportunity we have if we get these teachings. So why would you want to get these teachings? Not just to help your clients to get in touch with what's there so you can help them. when we talk about these blockages that we've suppressed, we're talking about decades, for a lot of people, right? Decades of pain bottled up inside. Every one of these are blockages, hurt, sadness, fear, anger, the time they did this to you, the time this happened to you. Consider them blockages in the flow of your life force energy. They're your buttons, right? You say, he can really push my buttons, meaning he can hit your blocks. He can trigger what's inside of you. We call that association, right? He's wearing a green bow tie and I hate him and I don't even know why. Because your uncle wore a green bow tie and you're associating, right? Or somebody looks at you in that way that your uncle used to look at you and you're having an emotion and you hate this person for really no reason. We don't see reality in neurolinguistic programming. We, in almost every other tradition now, we talk about what we call, probably the best term for this, is a phenomenological reality, meaning I only see my inner mental maps. I don't see what's out there at all. And if my inner mental map is really clouded by negative beliefs, negative emotions, negative memories, negative perceptions that are all unresolved and suppressed, then where's my real work as a spiritual being, if you're on the spiritual path, or if you're into personal growth, or you're just into hypnotherapy or NLP? You're interested in personal wholeness, and you can use whatever words you want, but you know when you feel sad and angry and depressed and anxious and when you're suffering, right? And when you're in that state, you are not in harmony with anything, right? Because the underlying energy of things, the Tao, God, the way, the flow, is actually really benevolent and beautiful, right? Nature is a great example of that. Animals are great examples of that. Quite harmonious. We're the ones messing it all up, right? As humans, right? Most of the problems you are discovering right now, experiencing now, are human problems because of a messed up human heart and a messed up human mind in the majority of humanity. And again, nobody teaches us this stuff of what to do to clear out those blocks on a daily basis. So we need to learn not to suppress, and then we want to start getting more motivation about what would it be like if that were all free. Because every blockage that comes up, every button that gets pushed, where you get a flare up of some negative emotion, whatever it is, whenever the mental field, in Sanskrit we call it chit vrittis, when the chit vritti field gets all fluctuated and disturbed, there's an opportunity to purify a blockage. But if you suppress it and stop it, it doesn't go through the healing process. You're literally fighting with a force far greater than you. What's trying to come up through you, through your heart, is pure love, right? Have you ever felt love in your heart as well? It's not just fear that lives in there, there's love in there. But what happens when we suppress the fear? We close down to the love as well. What happens when you suppress your sadness? You close down to your joy as well. What happens when you suppress your anger? You rob yourself of inner peace because you now have anger living in your heart. You don't want anything living in your heart. You want that thing totally open and clear. Your physical heart, what happens when something's living in there? Like a blockage in your artery that moves into your heart or whatever. That's not my field to even talk about. But you don't want that in your heart, and you don't want some foreign organism in your heart. So that's not good to have things blocking that flow of blood. But now think about your heart chakra, for those of you who know about the chakra system. Your chakras, in simply stated, are energy vortices that keep that region of your being alive, essentially. Right? The chakra system is a funnel of energy that comes down and then up, and the energy needs to flow up and down the chakra system. You close your throat, you close your heart, you lock up your belly. All right, those three chakras, solar plexus, heart, and throat, just those 3 of 7. What if you close those chakras? So we hear in like the New Age movement about finding someone to open your chakras, using sound healing to open your chakras. Why are your chakras closed? Because you didn't have enough blue light in your water. Right? They'll say, well, you have a closed throat chakra, so take a blue bottle, put it on a windowsill, and the water will take on the blue vibe, and you drink it, it'll open your throat chakra. Whether that's true or not, and that's a magic principle, according to A Course in Miracles, because you're using something external. But why would your throat be closed in the first place? You closed it. And who's that you? The you who controls your energy system, which is the consciousness and its willpower. You can call that spirit or whatever, but you as soul. But really, to keep it pretty down to earth tonight, you as consciousness, use your willpower to close or open your chakras. You don't need acupuncture needles or hands like Reiki or anything to open your heart. You just need to open your heart. You who closed it need to open it. You say, well, how do I open it? Well, first of all, you have to want to. You have to understand the importance of it and realize you did it. You closed it so you could open it. But you have to realize, like, if you closed one of your chakras, truly closed it, you would just die. So your chakras aren't closed. They're blocked. A closed chakra would literally be shutting off the faucet of life force energy. So it's not closed. It's just they're blocked and filled with negative emotion. Why is the throat so closed in people? Because we try to separate head from heart. We push down on that which we don't want to come up, because it seems like you live up here in your conscious mind. But really, the reason you seem like you live in your head and you're so in your brain and you're so in your conscious thoughts is because you're not comfortable with what's down here. So when we push down and close what's down here, we become afraid of what's down there. That's anxiety. Fear comes through a human system. There's nothing wrong actually with having the emotion of fear. But when you suppress it because you don't like it, you're afraid of it, now when it tries to come up, this is anxiety. And what is depression? Pushing down on all your emotions and wondering where your peace, love, joy, passion, creativity, memories, and bliss, your passion for life, where did all that go? Where's your compassion? Like with passion, like where did all that go? It's underneath this suppression layer. Let me see what another Matthew wrote in the chat pod. If all illness is psychosomatic, then do those modalities like Reiki and energy healing actually work? Thank you for asking. So yes, in my Sutras on Healing Enlightenment book, I do say all illness is psychosomatic. So I'm going to let you quote me on that, but I actually don't believe I said that tonight. I was just saying all mental illness or any by psychosomatic illness by definition comes from the mind. But to say all illness is psychosomatic is a bold metaphysical leap, right? Somebody shoots you in the leg and you develop some type of infection. We're not going to call that psychosomatic. So there's lots of human injury, illness, disease, and things leading to death that, unless you go into deep metaphysics, we really just have to say things happen, right? And it's a human biological organism. We are infiltrated with pesticides and fungicides and all sorts of chemicals now that the human body just can't deal with. So Buddha had like 100,000 times less toxins in his body than we do now. You have like a credit card size worth of plastic every day or every week that supposedly goes through the human body. So I'm not going to actually say in this class all illness is psychosomatic, but psychosomatic illness is absolutely mental. So, but then the real question is, do modalities like Reiki and energy healing actually work? They work on the level that they're treating. The doctors work? Well, yeah, right. If I break my arm, I'm not going to a hypnotherapist or a Reiki practitioner. So there are absolutely times that we bring the healing intention to the physical body, and that's totally fine. Sometimes the problem is actually in what we call the etheric body, which is like where the meridians are. There's a blockage in the energy meridians. So what would acupuncture or energetic type massage or Reiki, what would these type of things do? Sound healing, it's all fine. It's just understanding what is it doing. I'm going to suggest it is temporarily rebalancing the energy. After Reiki treatment, you're like, oh, I feel so good for a day. And then all your blockages come back in again, because we have to ask, well, why is the energy body out of balance in the first place? I think I already answered that with this talk, right? So here's what's happening. Consciousness is aware of these memories. That's mental, right? Memories are mental. We don't get rid of them through Reiki, right? We have a negative memory inside. Conscious aware of this memory. Who's in the memory? A little boy or a little girl, an inner child. what's in there with the inner child? All those negative beliefs. What are those? Mental. You can't, Reiki has techniques supposedly of, not supposedly, I mean, I have Reiki too, so I understand we supposedly can have a mental communication, but that's no big deal. Minds are joined. Right? In Course in Miracles, minds are joined. However, you don't heal other people that way. Once we realize inside of someone's psyche is that inner child with negative beliefs and negative emotions, we need to treat the problem where it's at, because what's happening with those negative beliefs and negative emotions, they're closing your chakras. They are blocking your energy meridians in acupuncture. They're causing psychosomatic illness. So let's say you have anger causing an ulcer. You can treat the ulcer through Pepto-Bismol, right? Through whatever somebody would do physically, and you can get some relief. But are you actually healing it? No. Even if you go to a doctor and give you fancy medication, they didn't actually heal it, because anger is causing your ulcer in this case. Maybe not always, but in this case, psychosomatic, anger is causing your ulcer. Can we use Reiki to get rid of anger? Well, I can get you really peaceful doing a Reiki treatment on you, but you'll be pissed again tomorrow when I key your car, right? Like something will happen that'll push that button again. And then again, you don't know what to do, not you who I'm talking to, but this person doesn't know what to do with their emotions, so they just suppress again. And then the block is there again. Then they need another Reiki treatment to open their heart. So realize the emotions are energy that are meant to be in motion that we as human beings block. And you can't use an acupuncture needle to resolve that. You can't use your hands to resolve that. That is a mental problem. Because I knew these teachings before I became a hypnotherapist, I couldn't dedicate my life to Chinese medicine. That is why I'm not a doctor of Oriental medicine right now. I have almost all that training. I was getting straight A's. I could have easily accomplished all of that. But my path was to heal the mind. So my book, The Sutras on Healing and Enlightenment, says all true healing is mental healing. And of course, the Miracle says this, that miracles are mental. So if you want to perform miracles, like really, let's heal that ulcer fast. Well, how do we heal the ulcer? Don't heal the ulcer. Heal the anger that causes the ulcer. But what caused the anger? The belief systems, usually that you're trapped, powerless, helpless, out of control. They're usually third chakra, stuff that manifests in your solar plex region. You can't see my hand below, but I'm pointing to my solar plexus. All that anger that manifests in the third chakra, solar plexus region of the body that could give you an ulcer is the stuff you push down in there. And you just can't clear that with acupuncture or Reiki. You can make it temporarily feel better. So we don't heal the ulcer, and we don't actually heal the anger, because what's causing the anger? The mind with its belief systems, right? All those negative beliefs cause that. So that's psychological. When we do interpersonal hypnotherapy work, we bring that inner person, that inner child, to consciousness, and we heal that. But this talk is more important than the hypnotherapy side of it, because for hypnotherapy, you have to get access to that. But these people are all closed down. So what I started doing, instead of giving the talk, which would cost them my hourly rate times 2, usually, a full session of 2 hours, I just started selling them CDs way back in the day. So here, 1995, here's my Opening the Heart CD set. Go home, listen to it, and it'll teach you what to do. And the next time when I see you, you'll be in a better place. It was about a 45-minute talk on how to open the heart, half hour something about methods for opening the heart. And then the third thing is a recording about actually how to do it, like a meditation that guides you to open up. I would say the majority of my first client sessions are hypnotic programming for opening the heart, because if not, you're wasting your time. They don't go into hypnosis well. They're too in their head. They don't know how to relax. They're afraid of what's in here, and they don't want to go in there. They're too in control. You got to soften all that first for a client. But like I said, we're not going to focus as much on the hypnotherapy side of it tonight. But good question, Matthew. Thank you. We're not going to focus on it so much on the hypnotherapy side tonight. On the hypnotherapy side, we're going to focus more on the opening the heart side. So I'm offering actually 3 ways of being with what's in there. Number 1, don't suppress it. So we'll get to 2 and 3 in a moment. But what do you do when you don't? What do you do when you suppress? And then what does it mean to not suppress? What does it mean to let go instead of suppressing? Like, what's the alternative? When we suppress, we tend to tense our body, right? Because you don't want to feel something, lock up your muscles, do body armoring. The problem with that is you're creating a lot of tension in the body, which only blocks blood and energy flow, and that leads to illness. So that's not good. We also stop breathing. We try to stop breathing when we don't want to feel emotions, right? Tense your body, stop breathing, and don't feel that. But your breath is intimately connected to your emotions, right? And if you don't want to feel emotion, just try to limit your breathing as much as possible. But where does all that emotion go if you're not breathing into it and letting it move through you? It gets suppressed and blocked inside. You could also just blatantly, internally just will, like I said, like, I don't want to feel that. And a part of you will work to honor that request. We could also suppress through drugs and alcohol. There's creative uses of psychedelics and whatnot, but I'm talking about people who are feeling negative feelings and then turning to alcohol to make that go away, right? Or you just can't stand this emotion. You're always so sad, but you found cocaine and hey, it makes that feel better. You could also actually suppress. Well, it's kind of almost like the next step too of how we act out on these things, which we'll talk about. But you can suppress essentially with other people, right? I'm sad and lonely. I'm going to call a friend, right? I just need to be in a relationship. I can't stand being so alone. I'm going to get on the online personals. And it doesn't mean that you never do that because people kind of need people, right? But if you're going outside of yourself to try to fill a void in there, right? If you're looking for love in all the wrong places, you're not actually finding where love is, which is in your heart. But you don't find it in here because when you look, you notice the altar has been defiled, right? That somebody has put a lot of junk inside the temple, right? The body is the temple of the spirit. And what are we doing with the temple of the spirit? Well, you're the spirit, you're the consciousness. You don't like what's in your temple. And so you create another room. And that room is filled with junk. So you want to understand how you suppress. And you can never hear this type of talk enough because we always fall into the suppression mechanism for years. Even when you've heard this talk 20 times, you're like, oh my God, I just suppressed again. I found another way to not burn away a blockage. I found a way to temporarily make myself feel better. You don't want to temporarily feel better. You want these blocks out of there. Right? You don't want sadness buried in your heart. You don't want that anger that keeps coming up. Have you ever noticed like you're getting frustrated every day? Like driving, every time you drive, you're pissy or something. If you're getting pissy every day, something's wrong. It's not natural. It might be normal, but it's not your natural state of being. It's normal that most people are miserable, but your natural state of being is pure bliss. Your natural state of your heart is pure love. Look at a baby, right? Like, there's pure love there. But then the child gets hurt, the emotion of hurt comes up, and eventually we learn to suppress that. And what's underneath all of that pain is actually that perfect diamond. I imagine like a diamond covered in dirt. Well, the dirt was an emotion that tried to come through that we suppress. That causes the energetic blocks and the physical blocks that physicians and energy healers are working to heal. But as deep hypnotherapists, interpersonal hypnotherapists, we're dedicated to healing the mind, to heal the body, although we don't always use the word healing in public, right? We need to be professional and use the terms that speak to our profession. But I'm speaking more as a spiritual teacher who dedicated his life to healing. So now what's happening when we're healing, when we're clearing a blockage? Well, before we get to that and like the beauty of what it's like to be free of blockages, let's talk about step 2 of what not to do. Okay, so number 1 is don't suppress. Do everything in your power to learn and understand about suppression and just stop doing it, which means you've got to feel your feelings. But then people almost always conclude the second wrong thing to do, which they're doing anyway. It's just you told them you're not allowed to suppress. They caught on, but if you don't finish the talk, right, this is the talk. If you don't finish the talk, then they're going to do method 2, which is act out. Or you could just say express, but I mean, I'm expressing now, but I'm not acting out. So the word expression is kind of appropriate. Say you're expressing your anger, but really let's just say you're acting out on your anger. Okay, so there's sadness inside. What do I do with that thing? A lot of people turn to their mind, right? Well, let me think it out. Your heart is the root of your mind. So whatever this feels, this talks about. Whatever your heart feels, your mind talks about. Don't listen to your mind during these experiences. When you're sad and it's talking about what to do to make it better, it doesn't have the answer. Your mind isn't your divine healer. It doesn't have the answer to heal your heart. It has temporary ways to make it feel better. It's like trying on new dresses. All right, you try the one that makes you feel good. So this is sad, and you're like, well, let me go buy some new clothing. Nah, it didn't make me feel good. Oh, let me try this new item of clothing. Nah, it didn't make me feel good. Then you find that one thing, you're like, that made it feel better. That's all we're doing with the mind. We're just trying to find ways to act out to feel better. So let's say you're sitting at home and you're really sad. You have the emotion called sadness and loneliness. What do you do with that? Well, you could suppress it, deny it, pretend it's not there. But step one is don't do that. You're sad and lonely, okay? Step two of what you could do, you could act out on that feeling. Your mind will say, well, let's go call a friend. Or let's go out and we'll go to the bar and, we'll try dating or something. Or let's go manifest our soulmate, all right? I'm spiritual. I'm going to manifest my life mate. Listen to the trap there. I'm not against soulmates and all that. I'm not against manifestation. But if you use spiritual teachings, if your ego uses spiritual teachings to try to make your life better, it will make your life worse. I'm sad and lonely, but I'll use Abraham Hicks manifesting techniques to pull in my soulmate. That person will be a reflection of your blockages, because law of attraction says your sadness is part of the manifestation, right? The lonely thoughts are part of that. You'll find somebody at like vibration, and they will challenge that button. Why would they challenge that button? Because the day, let's say he says, I think I'm going to go away for a month. I just need time to myself. I hadn't felt that sadness and loneliness, since the day we met. And I love you. Don't leave me. That's human love. It's what A Course in Miracles calls a special relationship. And it's how most people have relationships, actually. Excuse me. So you don't want that. You don't want those type of relationships. You want, in A Course in Miracles, what are called holy relationships. It doesn't mean you want to have a life partner, but the way you manifest a life in these teachings is so much better than this creating and manifesting to get your soulmate type of thing, or to I'm so sad, but I'm going to manifest a new home. Good, awesome. One of our students, thank you. Right, it's like I'm so sad, but I'm going to manifest this thing. It doesn't matter if you pick up a pickaxe, like you physically manually do it, or if you use mental technology. If you're using your mind to try to manifest something to make this feel better, what's the difference between that and going and getting donuts? I'm really sad. God, I deserve some Krispy Kreme. I'm driving to the store and you're eating Krispy Kreme. Your heart's feeling better. Here's the story. I had a client once. She didn't know why she had her issue, and I forget what her issue was, but we regressed, hypnotic regression, to the cause of her issue. It was a repressed memory of childhood sexual abuse. She didn't actually remember that it had happened. Essentially, there's a whole lot to say about that, but essentially what came up was a memory that she wasn't consciously aware of, where her uncle or somebody sexually abused her. And when she came out of that room where the abuse happened, her mother happened to be there, and they were going to have a party at the house that day, a gathering. And she said, here, sweetie, here's $10. Go to the donut store and go get everybody donuts. We're all going to love you when you come back. She instantly forgot about the horror of what happened in that room, or however she defined what happened in that room. Horror is a strong word, but something bad, right, happened in that room. She pushed that away. Automatic suppression, or I use the word repression, when you don't even mean to do it. You just have a mechanism in place that says you can't handle that right now, so repress it. Or consciously, we could just suppress. Okay, but when it's repressed, the emotions still come up, but we don't know why. We can't link the memory to those emotions yet. So she goes, she gets donuts, she comes back to the house, and mom and everybody's like, we love you, oh my God, and she's happy. Well, guess who became addicted to, I think that's why she had the session, now that I remember. I think she was addicted to donuts. And the cause turned out to be sexual abuse. And afterward, donuts were the thing that made her feel better, right? So if you use fancy techniques, whether they're, again, physical or spiritual, to try to manifest something or to just physically go get something to make your heart feel better, you've only acted out on that thing. That doesn't get rid of the thing, right? It actually reinforces the thing, because every time you get donuts, that makes it feel better, but it only makes it feel better temporarily because the sadness is still there and it's festering. The thing about your blockages is they grow over the years, just like plaque in an artery, right? It doesn't get better over the years unless you eliminate the cause of what's building up the plaque. But if you keep, the thing is though, you got an artery and you got a little clump there, right? And then more stuff can catch on that, if we can use that metaphor. So when you've got a block in your heart, more stuff catches on it because your system isn't clear. You have a half-closed chakra and life force energy is trying to get through. But what gets through up to your head is really limited, murky, yucky, because imagine these blockages are like stained glass, right? You got 10 red ones, that's your anger. You got 18 yellow ones, that's your sadness, and they're kind of like horizontally stacked. So you can imagine your fear is like purple or something. So imagine white light is trying to pour through your chakra system, which is what's happening actually, right? There's pure life force energy trying to flow through you. When it comes up and it hits your blockages, it doesn't move around them in the stained glass model. It moves through them. So now you've got red light coming up. Well, what do you do with it? You don't like it. Number one, suppress it and push it back down. But because it's all red and you push it back down into that red glass, you made it more red. If you let it out, all that happens is that blockage says, yes, that's the thing to do. And it just reinforces that pattern and makes it more red, right? Because you actually valued acting out on it. I'm angry and I'm going to let people know. If you determine don't suppress your emotions, but then flip to the opposite side, which says, then I got to express my emotions. Everybody's going to hear about this, right? I'm angry and everybody at work's going to know it. I'm afraid and I'm going to tell everybody to stay away from me. I'm sad and I'm going to create a movement to liberate all people from sadness by having everybody get puppies and go to the park together. You will never clear the blockages in your heart that way. So again, what do we do with this? Number one, don't suppress. Number two, don't act out on what's inside of you. Okay, and you got to like hear this kind of stuff over and over and over again to realize, oh, yeah, that was suppression. Oh, that was actually acting out. So what's the third option? Because we're always going to run out of time and we have to get to this part of things. The third option is to do nothing at all. It's the hardest thing to do. It's something we don't learn how to do, and you wouldn't do unless you understood the price of admission or the reward after the price of admission. It's hard to sit there and to just feel your stuff because you don't want to feel bad. The secret, though, is when you're sad, be sad. It's crazy to have to say this. If you're afraid, feel fear. What do you do with an emotion? Nothing. When you cut your hand, what do you essentially do to get all those cells to come back together and recreate skin? You do nothing, right? When you want to digest food and turn it into a body, what do you do after you eat? Nothing, right? If you have to heal anything, the best secret is do nothing. So how do we do nothing? If you don't learn to sit still, and meditators really, excuse me a second. Meditators know how to sit still. If you practice meditation, just simply learn how to sit still. That's it. Sit with a straight spine. It's really pretty simple in its basics. When you learn to sit still and you do it daily, all right, like every day, spend 5 minutes sitting still in the morning, 5 minutes sitting still in the evening. You can get better at learning how to sit still, but essentially that's it. Just sit still. So what's going to happen if you just sit still? Well, again, first, before I get into it, I really want to emphasize, practice it before your difficult times. If you're waiting to practice meditation until one of your blockages come up, you haven't developed that discipline to just sit still. When you sit still, keep breathing, right? Don't ever stop your breath, and don't suppress, don't tense your body, don't block your emotions. So then what do? When you breathe and feel, and you just allow emotion to be there, it starts intensifying what's going on inside of you. It starts burning away the blockage. You literally, and during this talk, I start actually getting warmer, as you're really in this room. You know what? Actually, let me get the AC going. 1 second. Great. It's not just because of the talk. It's at this house. We have AC being installed soon, so it's really warm in this room. Sorry if the mic is not as clear anymore, but that'll help me to keep teaching. All right, so what do you do when this emotion's coming up? You literally, and I'm like baking in this room, so I'll actually say it this way. You sit and let it burn. You just let the feeling inside of you cook. So what does that mean? While you're sitting there breathing and feeling, you'll notice your blockage inside. You're like, wow, that hurts. I feel my sadness. I sense my fear. I feel my anger. I'm really angry. All right, so that's one. You're going to sit there and you're going to feel your emotions. That's it, really. But then your mind is going to start talking. I mean, it already was, but all right, you just sat down. You're saying, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to sit here. Your mind is going to have every possible thought about what to do, right? Well, maybe we could kill him. No, it's not going to work. Maybe we could poison him. No, it's not going to work. Well, maybe we could try to get him in prison. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. Like, your mind will have every thought about what to do. Don't listen to your mind. Just stay sitting. And it's going to try to be ingenious about ways to get you to act out. Your mind is a problem-solving computer. It's going to try to make this thing feel better. Just don't listen. You just sit and breathe and feel. The best thing you can learn to do, though, with meditation in this model is to learn to observe your emotions while you practice meditation on a daily basis. So, all right, 5 minutes in the morning, you get on the meditation cushion and just observe what's happening inside. Get used to figuring out what is your baseline. So you say, all right, I sit there in the morning and I was a little sad today. I had a little fear today. I noticed some thoughts about this, this, and this. What did you do with any of that? Nothing. You sat on the meditation cushion. You observed what was going on inside of you. You don't have to make it all better during that sitting period. Just practice meditation, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just observe what's going on inside of you. You don't have to have any fancy technique for this model. Just observe what's going on inside of you, and then meditation is over. Continue with your day. During your day, life is going to push your buttons, right? People are going to say things. People are going to cut you off. Something's going to break. Something's not going to work. Your computer's going to crash. Like, all this stuff happens during the day, and you have your stuff come up. Now, the more you practice this, it'll be just during the day. You'll be like, I got this. Like, I know what to do with this. I'm clearing the blockage right now. But you might have to wait to get home again at night, and then get on the meditation cushion again whenever you can. Right? You might have to be with the family, talk to the kids, tell everybody, Daddy's kind of grumpy tonight. Sorry, everybody, whatever. But then, as soon as you can, go and sit by yourself. If one of your kids pisses you off at the dinner table, right, don't suppress it, but don't act out on it. It is hard to know what to do in any given moment, depending on the person. That's really another talk. But the idea is you're not really interested in what you say to your child anyway here. Your interest is, how do you remove the blocks in your heart? Like, I don't like what's inside of me, and all I care about is getting that stuff out. Right? I'm not interested in getting my way. I want true freedom inside of me. So I do my morning meditation practice and feel whatever I feel. Maybe it's bliss, maybe it's sadness, whatever. That period of time will end and you'll continue with your day. But in the morning, you're practicing observing your feelings. In the evening, you get back in the meditation cushion and you observe your feelings. And you sit and do nothing. And you don't suppress the stuff. And you don't act out on the stuff. What happens when you have stuff, the really disturbing stuff, it starts cooking inside of you. What's happening energetically and again, just energetic speak, you got a blockage, that's a thing, and you got energy coming up hitting that thing. When it hits it, it starts cooking it and transforming it, and then it starts rising up into consciousness, and you're there observing it. If you don't stop that process, the life force energy, which by the way is Reiki. You guys who were talking about channeling energy through your hands, in Reiki, the energy comes through the crown of your head. This is what they do in Reiki attunements. They open your crown chakra, your third eye chakra, your throat chakra, your heart chakra, and the chakras in your hands. And they make the energy essentially come out of your hands. Great. But that's inside of you. The Reiki, the Shakti, the life force comes down your spine and then back up your spine. Can you send it out of your hands? Of course you can. But you want to get it to hit your blockages and to burn those away. So don't push down. If you take 50 units of life force energy to suppress, then, or you could say, let me say it this way. If you got like this blockage comes up, and let's say it's 10% of your psyche is this angry part. For you to suppress it, it takes an equal amount of it life force, another 10%. Now you got 10% blocked, but you got 10% holding it down. But you don't only have one blockage. You got this block, this block, this block. Now imagine if you have 10, or let's say 9 blockages, each at 5%, whatever, and then you have to, I don't know, I'm not doing the math well, but the point is, if you're suppressing, you have to have equal amounts of life force holding it down, whatever you're suppressing. Therefore, what's left is about 20% of your working life force available to you. But what is that life force? It is joy, it is love, it is peace, and it is bliss. Every time you clear a blockage, more light comes through. That's what the Reiki, the Shakti, the Prana, the Chi is light. You want that love and light to keep carving blockages away, carving channels open in your heart, like neural pathways, but energetic pathways. You just learn to sit back and watch whatever's going on in your heart. And if you do it morning and evening, then that's just what you do. But now during the day, anytime you can get to just sit and breathe and feel is an opportunity. Don't consider tomorrow when something happens and you get upset about something. Any form of upset, sad, scared, angry, hurt, irritable, angry, a little, a lot, it doesn't matter. In A Course in Miracles, all upsets are equally disturbing to your peace of mind because they rob you of peace. You're either at peace or you're not. If you're not at peace, just observe what's there and you don't have to do anything about it. Go through your day, life will happen, practice sitting still again at night and observe. When you just breathe and feel all the time, like that's your job, just breathe and feel, observe and breathe and feel, and let energy start flowing and moving. Let life start flowing and moving. Again, you have to hear this kind of talk over and over to like learn about like, how do I live my life in this way? Essentially, instead of creating and manifesting the life you want, you start surrendering to life. You realize you don't know what's going on here anyway. I'm just gonna do I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna say, God, you do it. I'm gonna just let go and let God. I'm gonna surrender to the Tao. I'm gonna let go and just be in the way, in the flow, in the harmony of things. Whatever's happening is what's gonna happen. When you do that, life happens, right? You go to work, you drive your car, you eat food, you come home, you talk to people, life is happening. While life is happening and your blockages are coming up, what do you actually do with that? Again, do nothing at all. Just let life keep happening. So instead of creating and manifesting to try to get what you need so you don't feel bad, just let go of your personal self. Don't do what your heart and mind are telling you to do, no matter how ingenious they might seem to be. Now, again, there is divine guidance, but we're talking about disturbed energies that you don't want to actually let run the show. When you start clearing your blockages, you vibrate at a higher rate. There's more love, there's more light, there's more joy, there's more creativity, there's more passion, there's more compassion, a desire to help other people, and your dharma, your life purpose starts coming through. That's the divine guidance. So number one, you're going to be a much clearer vehicle for being of service to others and for your career and your family. You're going to live from love instead of fear. So just don't let fear and sadness and anger run your life. You can let love and peace and joy run your life. Trust your joy, follow your bliss. But don't Let your blockages run your life. Sit, observe, breathe, feel. Right now, what happens based on creating and manifesting? It is effortless, the law of least effort. It is effortless because when you vibrate this high, you start attracting things to you. That's what law of attraction is. It's effortless. You don't have to put pictures of dollar bills on the wall. It's not really the way wealth is built anyway. But if you want to really attract abundance to you, you've got to get out of your own way. It's either you're living from ego or living from spirit. So we've gone for about an hour. Let me invite question and answer sharing right now. I hope the audio is okay. I had to get the AC going. But feel free, question, answer. I'll kind of start to wrap it up. But while I am, go ahead and use the chat pod, wherever you're at. And then I'll see, and I'll be happy to interact with you guys. But yeah, let's take a few more minutes at least. So in summary, don't suppress your emotions. It blocks your heart. Don't act out on your emotions. It only reinforces what's in your heart. What do you do to clear these blocks? Relax your body whenever you feel feelings. Keep breathing and just feel. Take your willpower, pull back, and just stay conscious. Practice meditating morning and evening so you can just practice sitting still. Would crying be considered acting out? If we feel sadness, is it okay to cry and let it out? It's actually crucial that you do, because if not, you're still doing something. Remember, I said do nothing. When you cry, you are releasing neurotransmitters, biochemicals, hormones, whatever. I don't know. It's not my field. You're releasing biochemicals through the tears. When a child is hurt, when a parent is hurt, right? When parents are losing children now, and we've always had parents losing children, right? When that happens, seems to be getting worse, but anyway, sorry. When you lose something very valuable to you, it hurts, right? If you've ever experienced that kind of loss, and you cry. That's biological, that's psychological, that is natural. It's when we try not to cry that we cause a problem. So you want to consider yourself, in this way of thinking, the conscious observer of your human. Right? There's a you, and then there's a human being, right? A spiritual being having a human experience. When human beings get hurt, they cry. So don't mess with the human. When a cut happens on your hand and the cells come back together, leave it alone. Leave your heart alone. Like if you break it, you buy it. If you touch it, you own it. If you get caught up in your human and try to make it have a different physiological response that it naturally wants to have, then you're going to suffer, right? So when bodies are warm, they sweat. You turn on the AC. When bodies are sad, they cry. When they're thirsty, you notice thirst. So in Zen, they say, when walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. Above all, don't wobble, which has a deep teaching to it. But basically, when walking, just walk. When crying, just cry. When being sad, just be sad. When you're miserable, just be miserable. Now, what happens when you just sit, if you're like, I'm not going to act out on this. I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to let this energy. So how do you get free of your donut addiction in this model? If you don't have hypnotherapy, when you want donuts, when you're sitting there craving that one thing, don't move. Sit there as long as you can. I taught my clients in hypnotherapy what I call the 10-minute delay, because I don't expect them to be able to have advanced practices of burning away their blockages. So I was like, all right, I want you to just practice this for 10 minutes a day. Or if something comes up, sit for 10 minutes. All you have to do is sit still for 10 minutes. And then if you need to go get those donuts, you just can't imagine living without, then okay, go get the donuts. But at least you sat for 10 minutes and didn't give that energy a chance to act out on itself. When that energy is not allowed to move the body, and the body must stay still, it has to go up the spine. And the more in deeper meditation you learn to pull back and move up into your higher chakras, those of you who understand that, I'll use that terminology. When you're sitting in the higher chakras, observing your human self, the life force energy wants to come up to you. It doesn't want to be buried down in your lower chakras. The life force is trying to move through you. Love is trying to move through you. Instead of suppressing, you just pull back and observe what's going on inside of your heart. The blockages burn away, more love comes through, and you get liberated every day when you're doing this stuff. So where's the place of hypnotherapy in this? Like I said, I knew these teachings before I became a hypnotherapist. So I learned about breath work, rebirthing, holotropic breathing, integrated breath work. There's a lot of systems, but essentially breath work is hyper oxygenating or hyper energizing the body to force blockages to consciousness. If you've ever done breath work, you totally know what I'm talking about. Why do we lock up in breath work? Our mouth, our hands, all the shoulders, all gets tight? Because you're suppressing all the time and your body is revisiting that. So I've worked with arthritis very successfully to liberate all that tension, and then the fingers open up again. So stop suppressing, and breath work helps to reverse the suppression mechanism. Hypnotherapy lets us effectively deal with what we bring up. So if you want to heal the ulcer, don't work on the ulcer, work on the anger that causes the ulcer. How do we work in the anger? Well, in a hypnotic regression, we'll regress to the cause of the anger, and then we'll go through a very advanced protocol to heal what's in there. But what's in there is not just an emotion. It's an inner child who's hurt and sad and scared and angry and lonely and has been buried in there for 20 years or 30, 40 years. So we have the techniques in hypnotherapy to heal what's in there, but we have to gain access to what's in there. And the best way to get access to what is in there is early on when you're being a hypnotherapist. I mean to say your first session with a client, like early on when working with a client as a hypnotherapist, do opening the heart work. If you do hypnotic programming in your first session, give some of these teachings, program in, open. If you want a technique tonight, focus at your heart, take a big breath, open. Do it all the time, just throughout the day. Open. Breathe in as you exhale, just think open. It's about all you have to do. Practice sitting doing nothing, practice taking a breath, thinking open. If you want fancy techniques, I've got thousands of them in our hypnotherapy school. But if you want one of the most simple, sublime techniques, if just a quick plug for Anahat meditation, which I mentioned in the beginning, when you do that system, it moves Shakti energy up and down through your body all the time. It'll purify your blockages very, very fast. It forces you to sit still, and it forces you to move energy up and down your spine. And you learn these teachings during Anahat meditation, which is totally free. You guys can onlinemonastery.com, totally free teachings on how to meditate in alignment with these teachings. All right. Hello, Maurice, who said, is acting on the emotion similar to an emotion release in a hypno session? That's a great question. No. Now, it would be if you didn't have proper facilitation. So what happens if you do group breath work is everybody will breathe, but you don't necessarily have high-level facilitators. You might, but often you don't have high-level facilitators. You just have somebody who knows how to teach you to breathe. And then you breathe a certain way. Your emotions come up, but nobody's actually there to resolve it. You might get some relief. There's no doubt that you've let some steam off, the energy or the breath kind of cooked away at that blockage. But when the content comes up, that content is mental, emotional. Now, if it's severely pathological or diagnosable, maybe it's outside of the scope of practice of a hypnotherapist. But we're talking about average, able, functional people who go for self-help type workshops, right? That's the category we're talking about, not severe mental illness or anything like that. So when we just have a normal human emotion come up, which anybody is legally allowed to talk about and work with, right? You don't have to be a psychologist to talk about an emotion, right? So we're just saying an emotion comes up, but who's emotional? Who's sad? Well, your inner child is sad, essentially. Or maybe it's a past life self or a part, we call it subpersonality, whatever. There's a part of your mind that's not feeling okay. Hypnotherapy, the way I teach it, I've designed our protocols in our school based on these teachings. So when we bring up that little boy or girl who's sad in there or scared or hurt or angry, whatever, we transform that, we forgive, and we help it to let go. The secret here is to let go of what's in there, right? Don't push down, let go. Imagine if you're holding on to a kite, right? You got a kite flying in the sky, you're holding it with your hand. And somebody's like, well, just let it go. And you're like, but I don't know how. Well, what do you mean you don't know how? Open your hand, let it go. No, I've been holding on to it for so long. No, just open your hand, let it go. No, but it's like, but I'm angry. I need to hold on and keep this fist because I got to fight with someone. No, just open your hand, let it go. Once you catch on, all you have to do is let go. then the energy inside of you will let go and you'll start getting liberated. But these are advanced teachings, as simple as they are. So in hypnotherapy, when we talk to that inner child and the inner parent, by the way, we can actually say to the parent, look, can you let little 5-year-old Joe have his emotions? Yeah, I got to stop suppressing him. 5-year-old Joe, are you willing to have your emotions? No, I'm still scared of mom. And then we can resolve that. And now 5-year-old Joe eventually, hey, I can be myself. Yeah. And if you get sad, be sad. If you're crying, cry. It's okay. All right. Once we liberate that part of the psyche in hypnotherapy and we get that suppressing inner parent to transform, we integrate them, we dissolve them, and you're back to wholeness. So it's not acting out. It's a great question. It's not acting out to do good hypnotherapy, but it is kind of acting out if you only do hypnotic programming. Let's take a moment on that. You got a sad, scared inner child, and you got a hypnotherapist programming in, you're happy, be happy. You're not sad anymore. Now you're happy. That's suppression. You can use hypnosis to suppress, but advanced hypnotherapy, like interpersonal hypnotherapy, will not let you suppress. So there's lots of ways we can kind of manipulate this stuff, but in really good hypnotherapy, we're not trying to kind of paint that negative picture better. We are literally liberating that energy. Hello, Samantha, who said, can you explain why emotions like crying and sadness come up without any associated thoughts? It'll happen in meditation, yoga especially. Sure, because especially when you meditate into yoga. When you do yoga, you're relaxing your body and you're breathing and you're letting energy move. You're letting the Shakti move. It's really that simple. When you sit still in meditation, the Shakti comes always. It comes in through the crown of the head or through the top of the chakra system. It comes down to the tailbone and then it goes back up. That's its flow. It just goes up and down the spine. It's really, you're just like a tube. You got a hole here and a hole's down there. The human body is just a tube. Physically, your digestive system is a tube. Your chakra system is a tube. It should be an empty, hollow, clear tube. But when you sit, the energy isn't allowed to cause your body to move. So it goes down to the tailbone and then it loops back up. So when you sit still, you're not letting the energy, like, have you ever been really nervous and you pace? Like, you're just like really upset. You don't know what to do. So you're pacing. You don't know what to do with all that energy. It's so disturbing. You don't know what to do. It's the hardest thing in the world at that moment, but force yourself to sit still and your stuff will come up big time. But remember, that's because it got really triggered and amplified. This question, which is also a great question, is, but why would it come up if I'm not being triggered? Because there's life force energy moving in you all the time anyway. Consider it like a car on idle, right? It's not that your tachometer is at 0. It's hovering around 1,000 RPMs or whatever. And then when you get angry, it revs up. And that's a great opportunity. But even while it's hovering at 1,000, you still got that underlying percolating sadness, a little bit of fear. We always live with it, right? Wake up tomorrow morning and just before you get out of bed, take inventory. How do I feel today? Oh, I'm a little nervous about the economy. Okay, gotcha. Oh, wow, it's a slower month for the business. Okay. No, I got to, do the laundry today. Just watch what's going on inside of you. And notice that there is an underlying, not 0, but 1,000, 2,000 RPMs of your underlying base negative energy, if you want to coin a new term, base negative energy. It's always in there, and yoga and meditation, especially breath work, will speed this up. I'm not advocating any drugs on YouTube here, but I can say that ayahuasca, people have caught on, is like breath work on steroids, but on ayahuasca. It makes people get well, is what they call it, where they're purging, but they're vomiting, they're puking. And all their stuff is coming up and coming out. I can tell you, honestly, I have tried ayahuasca once. I don't think I'll ever need to do it. I didn't even need to do it then, honestly. I've been doing these teachings for so long. When I did ayahuasca, there was nothing but bliss. It didn't hit any block. I've been clearing my blockages for decades. So by the time I got to ayahuasca, it was like, oh, I got this. This is just super high energy. I just sat there meditating with the shamans while everybody else was puking. So You can absolutely get that stuff free, but you don't have to use drugs to do it. You don't have to go to Costa Rica or Peru to do it, although those are great places. But really, if you just practice meditation with these understandings, like the Anahat meditation system combined with interpersonal hypnotherapy and the opening the heart teachings, you do have a formula to get free. Now, can the stuff blend well with other formulas? Absolutely. But the more you can do other formulas, like, you're doing yoga, you're doing Tai Chi, you're doing Qigong, you're doing breath work, you got Reiki attunements, right? You do all that stuff, and essentially all you're working to do is open your life force energy and open your chakras and clear all the blockages in there. That shouldn't be the one time you go to Peru. That should be every day, every moment, whether you're on an airplane to Peru or not, right? Every moment you're letting the energy burn away your blockages. All right. Any other questions you're sharing? I'm trying not to make these YouTube videos too long, but I'm happy to engage with you guys any further. We will be here next week, 7 o'clock. We'll try to keep classes no longer than like this, about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So very good. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Hopefully I'll have AC in my house next time. It's on order. All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, Chris. Good to have you here. Who said? Thanks, Matthew, for great insights on these everyday practical applications of metaphysical approaches. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.